So, hello, how are you all? This is our second class, right? And today we'll go through biology topic, another topic, and that is social life of plants, right? So, we all hear about social life because human is itself a social organism, is not it? So, you people, tell me something. What do you mean by social life? Do you hear the term social life in animals? Yes, I think you all hear the term about social life of animals. Human is animal, right? So there is a social life of human. There is a social life of another animals. Many animals have their social life. Can you give me some example of social life of animals? Yes, there are various examples like the monkeys, right? All you see the group of monkeys roaming here and there in search of food. You all see some uh, troops of golden langurs in Umananda, right? In Assam, these are very common view here, right? So these are the example of social life. But if you see, can you ever see a group of rhinoceros in Kaziranga? Do you ever see a group of rhinoceros in Kaziranga or in Manas or in Dibru Soikhwa in Assam? I think you will never see a group of rhinoceros because they are solitary animals, right? Solitary means they live alone, they feed alone, they hunt alone, right? So there is no sharing of food, there is no sharing of labor, right? They are the solitary animals. But if I tell about social animal, can you give me some very common example which you can find very commonly in your home itself? Yes, the one most finest example of social life or social animal you can give me is what? Ants. Yes, you see all the ants you find in a sugar box, right? The black ants or the honeybees, right? These are the example of social animal. They not only share their food, right? They also share labors for preserving or for storing or for collecting food. These are the some of the finest example of social animals. But we are today here to discuss about the social life of plants. Do you hear or do you imagine before regarding social life of plants, do you can ever imagine that plants have some social type of life where where plants are very fixed organism, they can't move from here to there, but they can bear a social life. Do you ever imagine? Yes, it seems impossible, but this is absolutely correct for plants because they have do a social life for living. So, how can we say about that plants having social life like animals? First, tell me what is social life? Yes, sociability is a word with warm overtones, right? It means friendliness, compatibility, social adjustment, gregariousness, and good fellowship, right? So, if you talk about your friends, if you talk about a group of friends, how can you describe about your friendship? Yes, the bonding you share between the two or the bonding you share among your group, right? The connectivity you possess, the talkativeness among you, right? Or the ability to understand one another, right? These are all the properties or qualities of friendship among humans. These are the qualities of Even animals, they also can communicate one with one another, right? With some signals, with some chemical properties, right? They are connected with one another. Like bats can transmit what? Ultrasound, right? Bats and whales, they can communicate or they can connect it with some, or they can detect something by ultrasound, right? Like this way the ants can communicate with one another, with the troops of ants, with some chemical properties called pheromones, right? So these are the properties of animals. Now, how can plants ever communicate? Yes, there must be something to communicate of the communication of the plants. First of all, we should understood that plants have a social life. I am trying to make you understand how plants have the social life. So let me explain it first. You all hear about the terms like mutualism, socialism, and what? Cooperativeness, right? These are the very common term among the animals. But if I ask you to give me some example of mutualism among plants, what you can give me as example? Yes, you can tell me. One very common term you read from very beginning when you started to learn biology. Yes, that is the rhizobium. The nodule bacteriums that live in the legumes of the plants. This is one finest example of mutualism. And what do you mean by mutualism? What is mutualism exactly represent? Yes, the bonding between the two, or the benefit they sharing by both, right? They both are equally ad- advantageous. The benefit they gather are equally beneficious for the both. So rhizobium is a example of mutualism. Rhizobium is an example of socialism of the plants. So you can understand why I am saying about social life of plants. Now let me explain it furthermore. See this, I already described you sociability, right? Then what is kinship? This is, I think, a bit new term for many of you, but for others it's not a new term at all. So kinship develops from the need to satisfy the requisites for the continuation of life. That means you can simply uh, told it as you can simply define it as the blood relationship or the relationship between the family members. This is defined by the kinship, right? So how can you define kinship among the plants? Can you ever see a family of trees? Can you ever see? I think you never see a family of same plants in the same ground. I mean to say, if you reap some seeds of mangoes in a specific part of your land, then what will happen? Only one tree in a particular space or in a particular land, only one tree can grow further, right? And they can give food. But under the shadow of the same tree, not under the same shadow of the same mango tree, not many other mango trees can able to grow, right? So one shadow of the mango tree, I mean one shadow of the tree can make others bar from growing, right? So you we can give it as example, um, among the rainforest of Assam. You all see the rainforest, right? All the bamboo trees you all see in your villages, you all see in some parts of Assam or in some other area. the big bamboo forest, right? So can you ever see after growing the bamboos after so long in height, some other trees are growing under the bamboo shades? I think you never can able to see it because the bamboo trees capture the land, right? And they grow its own seedlings, right? So there is no chance of growing other plants among the very dense bamboo tree, right? And if I am going to give you some examples of evergreen forest you find in Kaziranga, Manas, or everywhere in Upper Assam, you see that the higher the density of the tropical evergreen forest, I mean to say, higher the height of the trees in the tropical rainforest of Assam, you see there are less number of other plants found in the same area, right? Means in one area there are particular groups of plants which are growing so higher and so higher that in your shadow not other plants can be able to grow. But what does it mean? Is the varietiness of the plants are less in such condition? No, exactly no, because the height of the trees in the tropical rainforest of Assam may grow further, but they can give shelter to some epiphytes, right? Some epiphytes, uh, some orchids, they are the house of many other plants like orchids, right? So, variety can't be defined by the height of the tropical rainforest, right? Let's see next. See this beautiful diagram I fixed here. I copied here from one book of plant biology by Shukanya Datta, right? So, see here, this is the hummingbird flower. The second one is beetle flower. The third one is butterfly flower. Then the first from the bottom is a long tongued fly flower. Next is a bee flower, and next is a hawk moth flower. So, what they can want to say, flowers of the family Polymaceae have adapted themselves to attract different pollinators. So, what do we can understand by this? See the shape of the flowers, see the shape of the pollinators, right? Hummingbird flower shape is very different from that of hawk moth flower. That means what? The plants trying to attract their own pollinators, different kind of pollinators, by differing its own structure, right? To attract various kinds of pollinators to bring to feed on their nectars, to um, to spread their seeds of germination to various places, right? So this is how the social life of plants depends on some other factors like the pollinators. There are various kinds of pollinators for the plants, like we can say some are anemophilic, like some are anemophilic, some are entomophilic, some are zoophilic, right? So these are some of the examples of bearing social relationship among the other organisms, among the other animals of the world. So they have a social circle, right? They have a social circle like the animals, like human, right? Uh, don't we have some social circles to communicate, to refresh ourselves, right? Such like that, plants also have some social circles. They are possessed by birds, animals then moths, butterflies, insects, etc. etc. The plants depends on them for various purposes, mainly for the carrying of their seeds to further lands for germinate and to spread their genome in various places, right? So this is one example that plants can bear a social life like other animals. See this, how socialism how socialism um, affect the plants. See the structure. Woodpeckers have extremely long tongues. These are the woodpeckers. You also hear the term name woodpeckers who eat woods, right? Talk, talk, talk. On that biting sound of the woodpeckers on the tree barks, right? But see the differences of the structure here. In the first bird of woodpecker, this is represented by long tongue coiled inside the skull. The tongue is long, but it can be adjustable inside the skull, right? And see the second structure. The tongue expands up to 4 times the length of the beak. See here. So these are the two species of woodpecker, right? So the types of bird on whom they can feed define the structure of the tongue of the woodpecker. And what is bark? Bark is the plant material, plant outside plant material. So plant can determine the structure of animal to depend on them, right? But this is not happen in 1 second. This is the years long results of evolution. Means the woodpeckers evolve time to time to adjust to feed on various types of bugs of the plant, and somehow they can adjust to survive on that specific bark of the plants, and they evolve like this with different structures. If we can remember when we study evolution, we can give some example of Darwin finches here. Or I hope you all remember about the Darwin finches in Galapagos Island. The finches have various types of big structures to survive on that new land, on new food or on new diet, right? So they evolved with different types of beaks to survive on the same land without competing with each other, right? So that the survival rate can be maximum, they can reproduce maximum, right? So these are the effect of evolution on both the birds and on both the plants, right? So these are mutually effective terms, which can affect each other for their survival, right? See next. See next slide. Yes, see this. This is the diagrammatic portrayal of the relationship between evolution, time, and extinction of plants. Now I think you all are thinking why I am relating this picture here in the social life of plants. See, let me explain first. The earth is believed to have been formed about 5,000 million years ago, right? It has only been in the last 600 million years or so that plant evolution has been spurred. About 450 billion years ago came the simple algae. Another 50 million years elapsed before the liverworts and mosses appeared. There were the first land plants, then came the ferns and the ginkgo conifers, and finally the flowering plants. The ginkgo has been around for some 200 million years ago, right? So why I am telling you here like this? The conifers belong to the group of plants known as gymnosperms. Literally it means naked sedge. So what is the impact of naked sedge? It can attract some different types of pollinators, right? They can be eaten by different types of birds. These plants do not have flower. The seed is external to the parent plant, although enclosed within expanded coned scales, right? So they must have some specific type of pollinators to carry the seeds with them, right? Because they have no flowers or external beauty to attract. So they can attract the pollinators by their internal beauty. Means by their hidden seeds. So this is not the capacity of all the pollinators, right? There must be some specific particular pollinators to eat this, and this is how the plants defined their structure of pollinators, right? So these are mutually dependable, right? They are mutually dependable on each other. So see next, this is the structure of what uh, this is the structure of animals. See the diagram. This is the structure of animals. Plants give food and shelter to animals. See the picture here. This is not very distinct, but I think you all see the picture, right? So see how the plants are helping animals to giving food. In fact, we all eat food, rice or vegetables. Living apart, the see that red like structure. He or she is depend upon some fruits like structure. So plants, what plants can give the animals? They give food, they give shelter to animals, right? They give a habitat to live to the animals, right? So these are some factors by which plants can define or plants can regulate the life of animals, right? So we can say that plants have the social life because they are equally interchangeable among the animals, among the humans, right? So see next. So see next, we can give some other examples of social life of plants like I already give you some examples of bees. Bees are the social animals among insects, and bees are important pollinators because we all love to eat the honey, right? Honey is especially very favorite for me, and I think you many of you like to eat honey, right? So what is honey? This is simply nectars of flowers, and the pollinators are the bees. So bees are depending on the nectars of flowers, and flowers are depending on bees to spread the pollen for germination of the next generation, right? But we are till here we are explaining friendliness of the plants and animals, but don't we have enemies in our life? Don't we have some friends whom we don't like in our life? Yes, we all have, I think. So plants do have such kind of relationship with some other animals, right? So what we do when we have animals, we don't contact them. Oh, sorry, if we have some Friends in our friend circle whom we don't like, what we can do, we don't receive their phone calls, we don't message as a reply to their message, right? So plants also do some same things, same kind of things for their enemies, right? So what are the defensive mechanism of plants? Some plants produces some dummy eggs. Why dummy eggs? Because some butterflies lay eggs on plants leaf surface, and that same species of butterfly don't lay eggs on the same plant if some other butterflies already laid eggs on that same plant. So what the plant do? They produces some dummy eggs by the plant leaf, right? Like nodule-like structures, and the butterfly is being fooled by seeing the dummy eggs, and they don't lay eggs on the same plant, right? So this is one kind of defensive mechanism of the plants to repel the enemies or repel the insects, right? And some other examples are they can fool the insects, like by attracting them, like Venus flower trap. They attracting the insects to sit on the beautiful surface of the plant, and then they what capture the insect and eat them. That is the example of Venus flower plant. Some other examples, some other defensive mechanisms, plants bear thorns on their outer structure to repel the animals. They produce some alkaloids, some bitter sticky substances from the bark, so that animals can't eat them, right? And one fine example, having alkaloids, plants secrete aspirin, right? You all know plants have alkaloids. One example is plants secrete aspirin. But why plants secrete aspirin? Do you ever think? Researchers, after study, see that the plants which have infection by tobacco mosaic virus has the higher number of secretion of aspirin, right? So this means when plants are attacked by some viruses, they produces more aspirin for as defensive purpose. So these are all the examples of the relationship of plants with the other world, right? One fine example I can give you here, the example of lichens, an example of mycorrhiza. These are not very uncommon example. Right? I think you all hear this mycorrhiza and lichen. So these are the mutual example of mutualism among the plants, right? So we can conclude that plants do have a social life. They have some mechanisms to communicate each other by alkaloids. They have some mechanism to pass their stress period for survival. They have the mechanism to attract their pollinators for survival, and these are all the results of evolution, right? So I think you all understand here much better. So we will again discuss some new topic in our next class. Till then, thank you and bye.